Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. Today we're going to be colouring a nice simple design by Jade Summer. This is from their new book, Flowers for Beginners. So hopefully you like this one. Let's pop in and have a look. So guys, I've printed this one up on an A5 page, so it's the half A4 size, and I have printed it so that I can use my COPIC markers. So just to let you know right at the start now that if you were interested in looking at this with pencils, there is a Patreon exclusive video which explains pencils, Prismacolor and Polychromos. So I go through and I'll show you how to do a flower using those in the exclusive video. So if you're interested in that, my Patreon link is down below, so please do pop over and have a look at that if it's something that you'd like to know. So today I'm going to just show you something that's really quite easy, but it really does look effective, and these Jade Summer images, Flowers for Beginners, they're actually really lovely pictures because they allow us to be able to put a lot of detail in them because they are so simple. So I guess I'm just trying to show you how to make something that looks really nice and simple here, make it look a little bit more detailed and a little bit more I guess a little bit more depth and things like that into your images. So today we're going to do some little sort of creases in the flowers so that you can see high points and low points, which will look like that the flowers really got some nice textures through it and things like that. So we've started off using R29 and we're just coming in and I'm just sort of doing a darker center on here. So I did have a look at some images online just to see sort of, you know, how I should sort of start with this kind of flower. I couldn't find anything specific that it was called. I think it's a hibiscus of some sort. But anyway, I've just come in and made it my own, I guess, by putting some character and texture into these petals. So all I'm doing is coming in and just doing little flicks or lines out from the center of the flower and bringing them out towards sort of the middle. I guess I've gone, some of them I've gone a bit longer because the black lines were a little bit longer as well. So I'm going to do that in the middle of all of these, or these two flowers here first, and then we'll move on to the outside parts of the flower. Okay, so this video is actually a little bit more real-time speed. I knew what I was going to say then, but it just wasn't coming out. So it is a little bit slower and you can sort of follow along a little bit easier being at the normal speed. So I'm just coming in and finishing off these flowers. I was just going to say then, I just apologize for going off the camera a little bit there. It was a little bit too zoomed in and I kept forgetting that it was recording, which I do quite often because I enjoy it so much. So I do apologize again, but most of the time I do move that image back into the view of the camera so you can see what I'm actually doing. So I'm still coming into the middle sections here and filling those out. So what I'm going to do now is create the ridges in the flower petals. So down in the bottom there where I am doing that, I'm just putting that same color in, and I'm just lining a line from each of the little ridges. So wherever there's a point, and I've gone off camera again, but wherever there's a point where the flower comes or dips in towards the middle of the flower, that's where I've stuck a dark line. So this will be the deepest part of the shadow area. So you can see there I've done that whole flower on each of those wavy parts. In the valleys I've put a line out towards the middle of the flower. So the valleys will be the darkest part, and then the other sections that are sort of coming out, they'll be the lighter parts. So I've made them higher. You could do it the opposite way around as well. So you could make those sections lower if you wanted, and make these parts that I'm doing now higher. So it doesn't really matter where you put it, it will just it'll give a similar effect. So I chose these parts here because some of the sections on the petals are quite large, and I wanted the sort of darker areas to be on either side of those larger parts, so that's why I've chosen that. And some of them I've put the line sort of right on the edge as well, so it's kind of giving the effect that the flower's crinkled. It's not actually a sort of smooth flat petal. The petal's actually got ridges through it. So I'm just coming in now and popping that in. So what we're actually doing is we're creating a triangle shape, I guess, to create these shadows from. So you can see as I'm just putting in the lines here now that they're actually a little bit thicker up the top, and they thin out towards the middle of the flower. Also too, on this petal here, it's overlapping the other one, so you can't see those ridges, so I've just made up my own areas there which I will fill in. There would actually be a shadow over with the overlapping leaves, but I haven't added that in. I'm just trying to keep it nice and simple. It's just a technique to teach you guys how to create that look, but if I was making it really realistic, I would put in a shadow behind each of the shadow areas where the leaves overlap other leaves and things like that. But I'm not actually trying to create that at this time. I'm just going to show you how to create these pretty little petals. So you can see that I've come in with that darker color. I'm going to come over the top of that with another color and extend this further out. So I'm using R14, so R14, and I'm coming over the top of each of these sections. So you can see that now they're starting to look a little bit more like a triangle. So I'm going on either side of those top sections, and I'm making those lines slimmer as they come in towards the middle of the petal. So we're creating a little bit of a diamond shape, a triangle shape there, to give us the illusion that there's depth in those sections. So you can see they're starting now to extend, and they're looking a lot more like a triangle. So you can see there that I'm really taking my time to mark these areas out. I'm not rushing it, just going over the previous color and just making the lines thicker at the top there and making them skinnier as I come in towards the flower, the middle of the flower. So just thought I'd mention here too that for patrons, I do have a color conversion chart from a Copic marker to Prismacolor and Polychromos pencils, so if you're looking for something like that as well, the link will be in the description below. So I'll also put a link to the book on Amazon for the Jade Summer images as well, so that you can have a look at those. So I'm just going to continue to thicken those lines a little bit. Sometimes I make them, I'll go back in and go over them again because I think that they need a little bit more color, so I'm just adjusting that as I go now. So I'm working on the next flower here, still using that R14. So I'm still using the same color here. I'm just making these lines a little thicker. So I'm only going to use two more colors. I wanted to keep it nice and simple for you, so you didn't have to go into all the complicated colors. So we've only got green and red to help us with that look. So I'm coming in still with that R14, and I'm just sort of making these sections a little bit larger. So some of the areas are quite wide in between, and I wanted to make sure we had some color. So you can see that top petal there, it is a large petal and there was only sort of a couple of ridges on it. So I wanted to fill out some more color into those areas. So that's what I'm just doing now, just making sure that the size is enough for only allowing two more colors sort of to come in. So the next color that I'm going to bring in over the top of this is R22. Now make sure that you leave plenty of room to have a white gap, so that we can still have the illusion that that's the top or the lightest part. We want that to be white. So just keeping that in mind as you're making these little areas larger. Okay, so you can already see here that we've got our shadow areas and we've already got our light areas as well. So we're now going to come in with that R22 and we're going to go over the top of this and extend it further out. So we're still doing the same thing. We're going to make and keep the triangles at the top, so we're keeping the wider part of the triangle at the top and we're making that line thinner as we go towards the center of the flower. So you can already see with what we've already done that we've already created the illusion that we've got dips and valleys. Dips and valleys are exactly the same thing. So valleys and mountains there to create that sort of, I guess, your highlight and shadow areas. So as you can see now on this flower, there's a lot of white in this section here in the middle of that larger petal, but we want that to look like it is really folded in on those corner parts there, and that top part is really nice and light and the sun's reflecting on it, or light's reflecting on it. So I'm just coming in, and as you can see, those areas are getting closer and closer at the top, the wider parts, and I'm bringing them further out now and closer to the middle part. So how amazing is it that we can just do something so simple and get such an effective look? I just wanted you guys to be able to see that sometimes I think we make things too difficult to do in our heads, and then when we actually see something like this done, your brain actually goes, oh, I can actually do that. That all makes sense to me. So I just wanted to sort of say that I want you guys to give it a go. What's the harm in trying something like this out and just seeing how well you can sort of achieve such a beautiful looking image without a lot of effort. I mean, obviously I'm using markers, so to me markers are actually a second nature thing and I really love using them, but you may be more of a pencil person and you perhaps haven't used markers before, so this is actually a really good start. It's somewhere where you can sort of have a play with them without feeling like it has to be perfect, and it's sort of giving you a little bit of I guess practice with those strokes, flicking that marker out and getting a little bit of control over it. I think when I first started markers, that was one of the things that freaked me out, was that I felt like I didn't have a lot of control because they're markers. Once you lay it down, it's there. You can't rub it out. You can't sort of start again. But as I started to use them more, I found that they're actually a lot easier than pencils. There's a lot less preparation and a lot less sort of effort going in to create such beautiful images. So you can see now that I've almost finished with that color how amazing that it's looking. I'm really liking this one now, and also too, I have come into the middle areas a little bit and put a little bit of this color out as well. So I have used it from the center out over the top of that color, just to sort of, I guess you can see me here doing it now. I'm actually trying to link those darker shadow areas to the middle darker shadow areas as well, so they're kind of coming from the center of the flower now. So we're trying to join them together, so we're thickening up the bottoms of the triangles a little bit to come in and have them sort of set where from the middle of the flower. So you can see I've just created extra triangles here from the top just to help bring those together and create more shadows. So I'm just doing in that larger section now. There was already a line coming up from the middle, so now I've actually joined it with a small triangle at the top there as well. So that's all I'm doing now. I'm trying to sort of fill in most of the flowers so that we can get some more lines and shadows through there. So even here where the petals are overlapping the other petals, I have popped in a bit more of a shadow area there now, because there was a line flicking from the middle as well. So you can see how that's now creating a sort of even look down the whole flower. So I'm just going to finish this off, and then I've only got one more color. Now when I bring the next color on, I don't want to cover over all of the white. So I think I mentioned it before, we want to have some of those bits still white so that we can really see those highlighted areas. So the next color is coming over the top of all the previous colors, but we are going to try and leave some white gaps there. So we're going to come in with a white pencil, which is a little bit of a tip or a trick for you. So if you do go too far in with this last color, you can sort of make that a little bit lighter by putting the white pencil over the top. So once I've finished this area here, I'll bring that in and show you how to lighten those up again. So I'm just going to pop this through, and then I'll come back when I use the pencil. I'm also flicking this all the way down to the middle too. So I hope I've made sense there, and that this is easy for you to understand. If you do have any questions, please don't hesitate to contact me. So I'm just going to finish this off now. Okay, so now I finished with that, I'm actually going to put in some more darker color into the center. So I've lost some of my depth in there. It's desaturated as I've brought that color in towards the middle. So I'm using that R27 again, and I'm just coming into the depths of the middle part here and just flicking some lines out again, just to give it a little bit more depth in there. So I'm going to go along and finish that off. Coming in now with that R14, and I'm just going to go over the top of that again, so we'll extend that a little bit further out. So we're just trying to create a little bit more depth in the middle here. So using this color over the top of that darker one is just helping to sort of blend that out nice and smoothly. So I'm going to go ahead and fill that out. So now I'm quite happy with how that looks. I'm going to start on these little buds here as well. So I'm using that 27, and I'm just coming in and just adding in some shadow areas here in towards the tip of the edge of the flower there. So I've got a bit of shadow here on the ends and then bringing it towards the tip of the flower. So I'm going to do that on all of these. I do miss a couple by accident, but I'll come back in and fill them out later. So I'm just going in, and also too, I just lined those black lines up a little bit with this darker color as well. So now I've marked all of those out, I'm coming over the top of that with the R14 and just extending that a little bit further out. So just coming up a little bit further. So it's nice and soft, just softening off that darker edge there. So I'm moving on now to R22 and finishing off these flowers here. So we've just gradually moved down the colours to the lightest one. I'm just filling in the rest of this. There's still a couple of little sections where it's slightly white, but we filled in most of those areas. So I'm just coming back over the top just to deepen up the darker ones now with the R27. So we've sort of desaturated the darker color there by going over the top of it with the lighter colors. So I'm just coming in to just deepen that up. So I kind of want these buds to be a little bit darker than the whole flower because they are so bunched up together, whereas the larger flowers have been kind of spread out now, so they're not quite as light as yeah. So the petals are lighter, and then the buds are going to be darker because they're compressed. So I've just gone back over there with the R14 and the R22 again, just to deepen up and to also gradually sort of blend out that color as well. I've got that R22 again, and I'm just coming in and just sort of going over the top of the middle sections here. I'm really just creating some depth. So the more layers that we do, the more depth that we can get. So I'm just coming in and doing that here. And there was a few sections that were a little bit too dark, so I've just made sure that they've blended off nicely and they don't have that really harsh sort of transition line. So now I'm happy with the colour. I'm going to come in with that white pencil. So I'm using a Prismacolor pencil because it goes on nice and smoothly. It doesn't mind going on to this paper, so I've just used that colour there. If you don't have it, any white pencil that goes over the top would be fine. So all I'm doing is going over the areas where I want it to be lighter and I want that smooth transition up into the white. So you can see I'm just going over the top, and what I'm actually doing is just softening off the line between the white and the colour. So this is the little tip or trick to help you get a smoother sort of line and a brighter highlight on the tips of those petals. So I'm just coming in and going over the top of those now with the white pencil. Okay, so I'm going to do the leaves and the stems next. I'm going to use the same greens throughout the whole area, so it's a little bit easier, and it means that you don't have to have as many colors to be able to create the same kind of image. So I'm using G09, and I'm going to go in and I'm just going to line all the shadow areas of these leaves. So what I'm actually going to do is create some extra lines through the leaves coming from the tip of each of those pointed parts of the leaf. I'm going to bring them in towards the middle. So you can see there I'm creating a little bit more of a veiny look through there by putting in some extra lines. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to fill out all these sections here. You don't have to fill out the extra lines if you don't want to. You can just leave them as they are and follow those darker lines out towards the edge and just use your color the same way that I'm going to use it through the rest of the image. But I've just put in extra detail. I think it sort of makes it, I guess, a little bit more detailed looking, and it means that it looks like you've spent more time on something by creating the depth and detail in there. So I'm just going to come in and mark out all of these areas now, and also marked out some of the shadow areas as well. So I'm just going to line out the left side of each of these sections here, just to put in a bit of shadow. As you can see there, I'm creating kind of like a star shape out from the bottom of the bud there, and I've just done one side of the stem, and also I'll do the bottom parts of these little curly parts underneath there as well, and I'll do some shadows in from the center of the little heart leaves that are there also. So I'm going to go in and fill out this now. So hopefully you guys have enjoyed this one. It was really quick and simple. There's not a lot of detail in it, but yet it looks so effective. So guys, give it a go. One thing that I have heard people say is that they've lost their coloring mojo and they don't know how to get back into it. Something like this is a perfect image to get back into it. It always comes out really pretty, and it just gets you going and gets you started. So also, if you're practicing with markers and you haven't done a lot with it, this is a perfect opportunity to get in and have a practice with those. So nothing too detailed and nothing, no, the techniques aren't too difficult to learn. We're just sort of going in, putting a bit of color in there, but creating some really effective images. So I'm going to finish off these sections here first with the darker color, and then I'm going to come in and blend them out again in a minute. Okay, so I'm just going to blend that color out now. So blending over the top of the G09 and then also making the lines a little bit thicker now. So I've got G05 and I'm just coming in to do that now. So I'm using the G0 colors. So I've got G05, G02 to finish it off. And then I'm just going to use that white pencil again just to sort of brighten up those wider highlight areas. So make sure that you're leaving enough room for the next color, as well as filling in enough room so that you don't have too much white either. So the next color that I put on will fill up majority of the color, and I will just leave a little white fleck on each of those sections there. So I'm just coming in to fill that out now. So I've just missed a few leaves up the top here. I'm just going to fill those in, and then I'm going to bring in that G02 and go over the remaining areas. So I did miss also a bud down the bottom there, so I've got to fill that back out with the pinks and reds again as well. So now I have I've also missed underneath that bud too, I've just noticed, but I'll fix that up in a moment as well. So I've got G02 and I'm coming over the top of the colours we've already done, and I'm just extending this a little bit further out. I am leaving a little bit of white on each of these leaf sections as well for our highlighted parts. So I'm just going in now to fill out that. So just finishing filling out that last little bud down the bottom there. So now that I've done that, I'm actually going to come back in with that white pencil, and I'm going to brighten up those highlighted sections a little bit. So you can see that it kind of gives these leaves a little bit of a ridged effect, which is really lovely. It's giving you some nice texture through there. So I'm going to come in with that white pencil, making sure it's nice and sharp so that I can get into those thinner areas as well. So I'm just having a look at it to make sure that I've got the areas that I wanted with that white pen. Now I've just got the middle areas there to do. I'm using G29, it's a little bit darker. I'm also going to put a little bit of a shadow in as well underneath this, just to show it's sitting in the flower there. So I've just put that colour in first. I'm going to go over the top of that with a darker colour. I didn't think it was quite dark enough. So I've got that R59, which is a little bit darker there, and I've just come in and done a little bit of a line of that as well. Just gone back in there with my R27 just to mark out a couple of areas there as well. So just doing the final touches, I guess, for it. So I've got some yellows here. I've got some Y38, and I'm just doing the bottom left side of each of those little circles there, and I've just got some Y17, and I'm just going over the top of that to fill the rest of that in. So just giving the two different colors there so that it looks a little bit more rounded. Being so tiny and the image being so simple there, you probably could just put one color in there and get away with that. So I'm using some W5 here, and I'm just going in and marking out a bit of a shadow underneath this stamen bit here in the middle, and then I'm going to go over the top of that with some R59 just to darken it up. I just wanted to mark that color in, so just wanted to show that there was a bit of a shadow there on that one. Sorry, just fix that. It was actually the R29 that I've come back in over the top of that with to darken it up. So we're almost done now. I did sit for a little while and try to decide what colour to do the background. Now I thought maybe I could do a bit of lilac, but I ended up going with a dusky pink sort of colour to match in with the flowers, and I didn't want to sort of take away from those too much. So I've just got some R81 and I'm just going to go and fill out the background. Now I haven't used any sort of technique. I'm doing it really roughly. I haven't blended it in all the way through. It doesn't matter. It just gives it some nice texture in the background. So I'm just going to come in and fill that out. My actual marker ran out a couple of times doing this because it is a smaller sized marker, so I do have to stop and refill it a couple of times as well. But hopefully you guys really enjoyed this video. The background is quite simple. I'm not going to spend any time sort of running into that. I just sort of flick my marker out, and as I said, that's R81, just flicking it out from each of these images and creating a little bit of a light pale background. So that's everything for you today. So guys, thank you so much for watching. If you haven't subscribed, please do so, and make sure you do mark that you get notifications when I do upload videos. I've just started a new series as well, which I'm doing a weekly top 10. There's a couple of groups that I'm in on Facebook, and I'm just picking some beautiful images from you guys. So if you're interested in that, please come along and join the Facebook group, and you can post your beautiful pictures on our group wall and you have the chance to be put into that top 10. So check out that, and make sure you like the video, and I'll see you next time, guys. Also, have a merry Christmas. There may not be a video over that few days period there. I am going away, which is fantastic. I can't wait to do that, but there may not be a video in between there. So guys, have a great Christmas if I don't get to say it before then. Thanks, guys.